good evening, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sammy, and today we are taking a look at this. This is Threezero, Revenge of the Fallen, DLX, Optimus Prime, but you can actually buy him. This is a KO of the official product, so a knockoff that I found on TFSafari. It's like $115 there, which is, I want to say, about $100 under retail for the original version. And compared to that original version, you're not missing out on much. But I get the people who don't want to buy KO. Personally, I don't mind it. It gets me something this beautiful for this cheap. And literally the only thing I'm missing out on is a display base and some weathering. Side note about that weathering, I actually kind of prefer this without it. Now I get that in terms of a Revenge of the Fallen look, he probably had a lot of that weathering, but without the weathering, he kind of looks like 07 Prime. Like he's fresh on Earth. He just scanned that truck and this is what he looks like without all the scratches and dings that he got in his many battles between those movies. This is everything he comes with, aside from the turntable, of course. You get 2 guns, 2 swords, a faceplate, or like an optional mouthpiece, a guard to put on one of the guns, and some alternate feet. Let's get in close there so we can get a better look at those. So, going over the weapons, here we have one of his swords, and this thing looks absolutely beautiful. We've got those Cybertronian glyphs here. We've got the sort of matte orange towards the center with a sort of translucent orange lining the edge of it, and of course the gray here is beautiful as well. Both of those just slot into his hands. I'll show that a bit later. We've got these cannons. Now these cannons, they are the main problem with this set, and of course I'll get into that later, but they don't exactly have a proper way of going into his hands. Underneath here we'll have a tab, and that's where this part comes in. Beautiful metallic paint used on this piece. The set really didn't skimp out with the paint at all. And of course that's how his cannon looked in at least a few shots of Revenge of the Fallen. I remember when he, Prime's first execution in that movie, the Not Today scene, he has this sort of arm guard, and, posing him like that, it looks one for one with that movie. Although, of course, if you use both of the cannons, I would recommend taking that piece off, because then it kind of looks a bit weird, having one with the guard and one without. Now, granted, these guns are not... Oops, I bumped the stand. They're not mirrored, so if you were to have a guard on each of these things, it would end up on the inside of Prime's arm instead of the outside, so I think that's why they did that, but still a bit weird. Mouth. Not much more to say about that. It's a mouth. I actually prefer the mouth on this design rather than the battle mask. And then the feet. These are, well, they're beautiful, but they're modeled after some upgrade feet. I can't remember exactly what the store is, but there's some guy who makes tons of upgrades for DLX figures, and he made upgrade feet because these feet suck. They're for the Jetfire combination, and they just don't look great. And so some guy made these. I don't know if these are the exact design, but they're definitely based on it. And that kind of leads me into a common complaint I see with this guy, is that the pegs on the feet are too loose. Which they are, but it's not something you're gonna really have a problem with. So let me just get this whole thing set up. When it comes to his feet, they're gonna be a little bit loose, but clearly they're not gonna fall out. They're not gonna fall out or anything, or just come right off when you're posing him. But coming up here, his feet are very slim, but they're rather tall, so it kind of, I don't know, it just doesn't look right to me. These feet are wider, but also shorter too, so changing them out is as simple as it could ever be. Just take these, pull them off. They'll come right off because those loose pegs that people complain about. And I get the complaint because with these ones, these feet are definitely heavier, so they'll rotate a bit easier, but as I said, they're not gonna fall out. And let me just get them balanced up right. That looks 100 times better for him. And it just brings the whole design home for me personally. There are some other upgrade parts, like the chest. I know some people don't like the chest or the head. Personally, they don't really bother me at all. And these hands, they're actually upgrade parts too, because they are posable, unlike normal Threezero hands. And to prove my point, here we have Threezero Bumblebee. His hands, they're not posable at all, they're just static. And like a fist here is something I'd have to pop off and change out. But Prime, they decided to give him upgrade hands so that you'd be able to pose them as you wish. And I like that. They open up a lot of possibilities. I don't exactly remember what hands he came with, but you know, now it doesn't matter because he can do anything you want him to. Aside from give a thumbs up, his thumbs are on more of a swivel here. I think it's a ball joint, but it really doesn't have any range to go up. So the best you can get is kind of a bent backwards thumb, but that just looks wrong, and I don't even know if you can see that because my camera sucks. I need to get a professional one at some point. On the topic of how Prime works with his accessories, here we have one of the swords, and there's a spot in the sort of wrist area here where it just slots in and stays there very firmly. Don't have to take the hand off or nothing. Just kind of slots into the forearm there. Works on both sides. And you're golden. And now to get into a complaint that people have. Oops, I almost sent his mouth flying. The guns. They don't have anywhere to go because this guy obviously doesn't come with the gun-holding hands. He comes with these posable hands, which don't really hold the guns, like, at all. There's a tab like a tab slot connection like a lot of Masterpiece figures have on his palm, but they didn't modify these at all to have any sort of tabs like that. So you just gotta kind of balance it and, you know, work his fingers in, get the gun on there, and just kind of squeeze his fingers around, and it's not a good fit at all. But I mean, you can get him posed fine enough for photography, and he'll look good, but it is a shame how the cannons just kind of flop around in his hand, because they look so damn good. All of his accessories look amazing, and I wish I had the motivation to display him with his cannons more. It's not something I'm going to entirely avoid, but it is just 100 times easier to pose them with the swords, because they have a designated connection to them, unlike these cannons. Now for the mouth, and I'm just gonna... Come on. Give me your face. Oh, thank you. His head is, oddly enough, tinier than I thought it'd be. And yes, there are lights, and it takes 2 LR44 batteries, but mine came with 3 smaller batteries in it, and it works, but it's supposed to take LR44s or AG13s, whatever you want to call it. And he just, in order to activate those, just pop off his dome and, you know, work a nail on that button. You can hit it once after turning them on, and it'll make them dimmer. Can you see a difference? Because I can't. And then once again, we'll turn them completely off. And that can go back on there. Now to remove his, put his mouth on, you have to take off this tiny piece on the chin. Take off the sides. And then rip off the mask. And it'll reveal 2 little pegs. And the mouth will just pop right on. Reassemble the head, and that's actually picking up better on camera than I thought it would. He looks great like this. This is absolutely how I'm gonna be displaying him, because it's just got so much detail, and at this point the mouth on Baze Prime is iconic. Ugh. And yeah, this is my preferred look for him. Getting in closer, we can really start to appreciate the more fine details of this model, and actually that's a bit too close, my bad. We can really appreciate the finer details on this, and as you can see now, even the entire back is detailed, which, if you're a Transformers collector, you're probably not used to. Backs of figures tend to be neglected, be it on mainline stuff or Masterpiece, you know, whatever. But these Threezero figures, they do so much at every single point, and a lot of that detail actually will go mostly unnoticed. I mean, for example, there's plenty of detail. There's a lot of removable parts on this guy, and there's plenty of detail underneath those parts that you're normally not even gonna see. But also, people sing the praises of Threezero backs. That is why. It is, using the forward crunch on this guy, which is, you know, that far, it exposes so much detail, and while on other figures, like Bumblebee, who I brought out earlier, it would just be like this sort of spine detail. Here on Prime, you actually get things like a trailer hitch, which I've always wondered where that went on him. It turns out it's on his ass. And of course, you get smaller things like shocks here, some more even smaller shocks here in red, and I am bumping the hell out of my stand. Of course, all the lovely paneling here, the flames, the pinstriping on the flames even, which a lot of things tend to neglect, and god damn it, can I stop hitting this thing? You even get like all the headlight sections, and yeah, there's so many things that move around on this guy. Just fidgeting with that made me think of it. Both for articulation's sake, to not limit things. For example, that wasn't supposed to happen. For example, this thing, it comes up so that his arm can move out, and you know, for a KO, this guy's joints are rather tight, which is good. It's a damn high quality KO. But something else I like about these Threezero figures, you'd think the arm would just go out to there, but then there's another joint on the inside of the chest that makes it go up to there. Just a whole nother articulation section that can, you know, also go forward. You know, why don't we cover articulation? The head, there's a joint inside the neck and a joint at the base of the head, obviously, so he can look that far up, that far down. The base of the neck is where most of the movement up and down will be, but you can also, you know, tilt, look around, that sort of stuff. Left or right is a bit limited, bit more limited than I would like, but it's not the end of the world. Of course, as I showed earlier, shoulder moves up, and butterfly joint forward, whole arm can move out. We have a, oh yeah, arm can move around. Don't know how I forgot that. Arm moves out, obviously. Rotation here, and this piece, this is the only problem I have, which is like quality control related. This likes to come off a lot easier, and it really should be just a problem with my copy, because this one stays on just fine. Obviously it can be removed to facilitate jet fire. This is a straight position, but arm can bend here and here, which makes for a beautiful double jointed elbow. The wrists are on ball joints, so they can rotate, sort of move in, out, that sort of deal. And of course the articulated fingers, which are on a hinge joint here, hinge joint here, and a hinge joint here, which is a lot of hinge joints. And the thumb is on a rotation here. It's a ball joint, but it acts like a rotation. And then two hinge joints, which basically never get any use. They're just kind of pointless. At the waist, we have doors that can move, or not at the waist, at the, you know, body. We have doors that can move, these parts that can move that are on tiny ball joints that are a pain to put back in when they come out. These things can move out of the way, and these can kind of move, but I don't know why you'd ever move them. As said before, we have a beautiful forward crunch, and at this upper joint here, you can also get some pretty good side to side, and everything's hitting each other. It's just the nature of these bay designs. And more at the bottom joint here, so there's one joint here and one joint here. At this, actually you can kind of get one here, but at the bottom joint is where you'll get most of your waist rotation. And the upper one is more for, like, you know, all that stuff. The legs here are kind of interesting. They're on these sort of drop-down joints, so they can kind of, you know, drop down. Oh, beautiful explanation there, I know. And it's really hard to get a view in there, but you can kind of see it right there. And it, you know, just brings the leg down for a bit of extra room. You've got these parts that can move out of the way. And with the joint fully extended, he can kick forward that far, backward that far, and the leg can go out basically to there. And of course, a bunch of pieces moving. I swear if I bump in the stand one more time. So at the knee here, we have, well, first off, we have yet another piece to move out of the way. We've got this sort of flappy thing, and then this will kind of hinge up. It's supposed to be kind of like against the back of the leg, but it will move up, and then we can get a double jointed knee and this whole flap thing. But yeah, knee can go back that far. I forgot to mention rotation here. I really don't like using that rotation though, just kind of feels weird. And then at the feet, we've got a rotation, obviously. We can move that much. I am terrible at showing this off. We can move back that much, forward that much. It's got a toe joint that works both ways, kind of. And then, you know, more flappy bit. And then, pretty good ankle pivot. I've heard that the ankle pivots on the original feet are better, but personally I can't justify putting them back on. Now, let's talk quality control. Being a knockoff product, you'd expect bad quality, and really I don't have much of that. As shown before, this part here, very loose, likes to come off, will just wiggle straight off from gravity alone if I mess with him. Other than that, really no problems with this guy. As mentioned before, his feet have kind of loose pegs, but that's to facilitate the foot changing option. So that's done with intention. Now, a problem that I did see with this guy was on, I think it was Ben's KO Collectibles video on him. His, the cap of his head would not sit properly And so there would be a gap between his eyes and the top of, or the bottom of the head crest. He had a mile-long forehead. And I actually experienced that. While checking the batteries for this guy, while checking it out, when I put everything back together and screwed back on the blue part, because this part comes off, there's another blue part underneath it, has to be screwed on over the battery compartment. It isn't like the Bumblebee I have where it just pops off and there's the battery. So when screwing that part back in, suddenly I had that issue where he had the 5-head syndrome going on. And it took me like a good half hour to figure it out, but I found out the battery compartment has to be orientated a stupidly specific way. Basically, how it has to be orientated is it has to be pushed like all the way forward and all the way down, and then it'll go into place correctly. But if it isn't put in like that, then it's not going to be a great time, because then you'll have 5-head prime. I mean, I had to go through the process so many times that the screw hole thing on the blue section inside his head actually broke and now has like a hairline crack on it, but it holds perfectly fine still, so I'm not complaining. But other than that, there is really no QC problems to report. Not on Ben Scale Collectibles side, or actually, no, I lied, I just remembered he had a problem with the inside joint on the shoulder being a bit loose. So there's that, but his is the only review I've seen that in. And granted, there's only like 3 reviews of this guy, which is why I wanted to put one out there. But other than those problems, there's nothing else I've seen. Nothing in Ben Scale Collectibles review, nothing in that Toy Guys, and nothing in some Spanish one that I saw that I can't remember the channel name of. Alright, and now for some size comparisons. First off, we have a Jada Toys 1/24th scale Peterbilt 379, year unknown, because as much as I looked, I couldn't get a year for what model of truck 07 Optimus was. This truck is too big. I thought it would scale pretty good. It does not. Optimus is like 130 scale, and this truck is 124, so way too big. But I still think it makes for a nice companion piece to this Threezero Optimus Prime. Comparing him to other movie stuff, we have Threezero Bumblebee, who is way too big, but I still like them together. Really hoping Threezero will get on a Bayverse Bumblebee that's not the Last Night. I would love to see one from one of the first 3 movies to go along with this Optimus, because he'd look absolutely beautiful. And up next we have Unique Toys Desperado, aka Dark of the Moon Megatron, and he's perfect. I mean, these guys look great together, even if this isn't the Dark of the Moon Optimus. He looks amazing. And last but not least, we have him set up with, I think this is Black Mamba. It is a T10 Earthquake, oversized MPM 10 Starscream, which I specifically got for this collection because MPM scale is kind of stupid. And this Starscream looks a lot better than MPM ever would. Had to get him set up off camera though, because he hates standing. Getting the movie stuff out of here for a more masterpiece scaled collection, here we have MP53, MP17, a KO, or actually MP17 is also a KO, a KO MP36, Magic Squares Optimus Prime, Deformation Space, Starscream, and I don't know where Soundwave is. Fans Toys Soundwave. And for our mainline chug collectors here, we have a lovely lineup of characters here for you, such as Optimus Prime, Armada Prime, Bumblemus Prime, Rise of the Brime, and Volvamus Prime. And lastly, I would like to compare him to the parts so far I have of Fanholm Optimus Prime. That is just the foot. It's like just his ankle. I also have his chest and his head. Overall, if you're even slightly a fan of the movies, I say this is a must-have for your collection. As mentioned before, he's like $115, which does sound like a lot, but in terms of a Threezero product, yeah, this guy retailed for like $200, and now on the aftermarket, he goes for like $500. I mean, at least. There's some people selling him for even more. So if you want a Threezero Optimus and you don't want to, pay with your kidney, then by all means, go for this one. And as for his combination with Jetfire, I've heard conflicting reports on that. A lot of reviews, and even the page for TFSafari, which I will be linking below, says he can do the combination, but I have heard from some places that he can't do the combination due to certain parts on him, including a review from Shozy Store. I'm gonna put that to the test. I have paid the $300 almost for Threezero Jetfire, and as I'm recording this, he's just shown up in the United States, and I should have him within the week. So, number one, I'll definitely be making a review on him, and number two, I will definitely keep you guys updated on if he can do the combination or if he can't, rather in a short form video, or if he can do the combination, then I'll do a whole ass review on the combined product. But until then, this has been Sammy. Again, can't recommend this product enough. Go buy it, TFSafari, link in the description. All that fun stuff. I will see y'all next time when I review probably Threezero Jetfire, but I might do something else in the meantime. We'll see. Either way though, I plan on actually following it up this time, unlike the Mantis from last video. But yeah, until then, good night y'all.